The Human Realm. The Human Realm, by Liu Jiming, translated by Chen. Part 1, continued. Chapter 30. Ding Yuping hadn't anticipated that, at this critical juncture, the Chufeng Group pollution problem he'd been desperately covering up for so long would suddenly erupt. For a remote small county with a population under 500,000, Yanhe was hosting the China Sociology Association's High-Level Forum, a national-level conference, for the first time. Moreover, it coincided with Yanhe's county-to-city conversion celebration activities just beginning. The importance level was imaginable. Half a year earlier, Yanhe had established an organizing committee with China Sociology Association Executive Vice President Zhuang Dingxian and Yanhe County Magistrate Ding Yuping as co-directors. Ding Yuping also concurrently served as leader of Yanhe County's County-to-City Conversion Celebration Activities Preparation Leadership Group. Half a year ago, County Party Secretary Old Wei had gone to the Central Party School to attend a County and City Party Secretary training class. All county matters, large and small, were pushed onto Ding Yuping's shoulders. Old Wei was originally a section chief in the provincial government's Policy Research Office, having served as secretary to 2 provincial party secretaries. His background and connections were naturally extraordinary. Everyone knew he'd come to Yanhe only for short-term temporary assignment and gilding. Before long, he'd be transferred back to the province to assume a new post. As Yanhe County's native-born county magistrate, Ding Yuping naturally couldn't be like these parachuted cadres who, after doing vanity projects to gain some achievements, would oil the soles of their feet and leave. He had to do solid practical work, truly win the trust of Yanhe's vast cadres and masses. Therefore, regarding the current one forum and one activity, he treated them both as work pressure and as a rare opportunity, investing double attention. He knew this was Yanhe's first hard battle after converting from county to city status. It not only concerned Yanhe's external image, but would directly affect whether he could smoothly succeed as secretary after Old Wei's departure. Publicly and privately, he could only win, not lose. Therefore, from forum delegates' accommodation, conference agenda, security and transportation to sightseeing tours and so on, Ding Yuping questioned everything, striving to leave no blind spots. To elevate the forum's status, he'd made a special trip to Wuhan, wanting to invite a provincial party committee vice secretary or vice governor to attend. But the provincial government recently made strict regulations about leaders attending activities. After much effort, he'd only managed to invite Provincial People's Congress Vice Director Han Peng. Early in the morning, after Ding Yuping got up and hurriedly washed up, without even calling his driver, he phoned Secretary Little Liu, having the driver drive the car directly to the hotel after work, then rushed straight to Yanhe Hotel to accompany Provincial People's Congress Vice Director Han Peng for breakfast. From Ding Yuping's home to the hotel was only about 10 minutes' walk, arrived in a jiffy. Entering the hotel lobby, it was just 7 o'clock, still half an hour before breakfast time. Han Peng had only arrived from Wuhan after 10 p.m. last night. When Ding Yuping and County Government Office Director Old Zeng and others picked him up at the Riverside ferry dock and got him settled at the hotel, it was almost midnight. The old gentleman was, after all, in his 60s. Having jolted in a car for half a day, he must be exhausted. Right now, he might not even be up yet. The lobby was empty and desolate. Aside from 2 cleaning staff, almost no one. Ding Yuping found a seat in a corner of the lobby's tea area. From his briefcase, he pulled out a stack of manuscripts, snatching time from his busy schedule to browse through them. This morning, Ding Yuping would give opening remarks on behalf of the Yanhe County Party Committee and government at the High-Level Forum. After Secretary Little Liu handed him the draft yesterday afternoon, he still hadn't had time to look through it once. Right now was perfect for last-minute cramming, avoiding any unfamiliar words or phrases in the draft that he might mispronounce, making a fool of himself before a bunch of scholars and professors. But Ding Yuping had barely read a few lines when a hotel vice manager discovered him. "County Magistrate, why are you sitting here?" The vice manager's face showed extreme surprise, mouth agape, looking somewhat comical. "What, can't sit here?" Ding Yupeng raised his head, puzzled, glancing at him. The vice manager knew the county magistrate had misunderstood his meaning. He quickly explained, "That's not what I meant. I'm saying so early in the morning. Didn't you rest at the hotel last night?" "Oh, my home is nearby. No need to stay at the hotel." Ding Yupeng pointed to the draft before him. "I came to accompany Provincial People's Congress Director Han for breakfast. It's not time yet, so I'm taking advantage to look at documents." "Oh my, County Magistrate, your work truly sacrifices sleep and food, seizing every moment." The vice manager praised exaggeratedly, immediately turning around, loudly instructing a server, "Little Zhang, quickly bring the county magistrate a cup of—" "County Magistrate, will you have tea or coffee?" "About to eat breakfast. No need, right?" Ding Yupeng said hesitantly. The vice manager took Ding Yupeng's hesitation as politeness, so he took matters into his own hands. "Then bring the county magistrate coffee. Morning coffee refreshes the spirit." Ding Yupeng paid no more attention to the vice manager, burying his head to continue browsing his speech draft. Reviewing documents during meeting intervals, business trips, and even in jolting cars had almost become one of Ding Yupeng's work habits. He felt efficiency wasn't much worse than in an office. At this moment, he used less than 15 minutes to finish browsing the speech draft, adding pronunciation notes under several difficult words and phrases. He cast his gaze toward the clock on the lobby front desk wall, only 5 minutes until 7:30. People in the lobby gradually increased, mostly guests going to the restaurant for breakfast. Of course, most were delegates attending the high-level forum. Ding Yupeng saw County Government Office Director Old Zeng, responsible for reception work, hurrying from outside into the hotel lobby. According to arrangements, Sociology Association Executive Vice President Zhuang Dingxian's meals and outings were all fully accompanied by Old Zeng. Coming to the hotel so early, he was obviously here to accompany Chairman Zhuang for breakfast. Ding Yupeng called to him, "Old Zeng, come here a moment." Hearing the county magistrate call him, Old Zeng trotted over. "Old Zeng, I'm also accompanying Director Han for breakfast. Invite Chairman Zhuang to the small private room, combine both groups. Perfect opportunity for Director Han and Chairman Zhuang to meet first." Old Zeng quickly understood Ding Yupeng's intention, walking quickly toward the restaurant. Ding Yupeng put the speech draft into his briefcase and stood up. Just as he prepared to walk toward Han Peng's room, he suddenly saw a dignified, middle-aged woman walking over from across the way. He recognized at a glance it was Murong Chu. Taking 3 steps as 2, he went forward, calling from afar, "Professor Murong, where did you go last night? Didn't see you at dinner either." Murong Chu stopped, smiling as she looked at Ding Yupeng. "Oh, yesterday afternoon, Sociology Journal Associate Editor Wu Yan and I climbed Bijia Mountain. We returned late, so we just ate something casually at a snack shop by the hotel entrance." "Heh. The conference specifically arranged time for touring. Look how impatient you are. Haven't been to Yanhei for many years, right?" "Right. Changes truly are too great. The forum business must have kept you, this great county magistrate, extremely busy, right? How can I thank you?" "Thank me for what? Students doing things for teachers is proper." Ding Yupeng laughed. "Besides, I'm just running errands." "Easy to say, hard to do," Murong Chu said seriously. "Such a big conference. Just dozens of people's food, lodging, and transportation is no small expenditure. Yanhei County isn't very wealthy. Using ordinary people's money to hold conferences makes me feel quite bad." "Don't worry. This money won't come from fiscal expenditures. The conference's entire cost is sponsored by Chufeng Group." "Chufeng Group?" Murong Chu muttered these words, brow suddenly furrowing. "Your meaning is—" Ding Yupeng suddenly realized he'd let something slip. He quickly changed the subject. "Oh, Director Han only arrived last night. I was just going to accompany him for breakfast. Chairman Zhuang is there too. Professor Murong, come along." "When you leaders are together, you definitely have things to discuss. I won't join the excitement." Murong Chu hesitated, then turned around, walking toward the restaurant. Ding Yupeng watched Murong Chu's graceful retreating figure, suddenly feeling that compared to several years ago, his teacher not only didn't appear old, but seemed to have become somewhat younger. The morning opening ceremony went smoothly. According to the agenda, Ding Yupeng gave congratulatory remarks on behalf of the Yanhe County Party Committee and government. Next was Provincial People's Congress Vice Director Han Peng's speech, then China Sociology Association Executive Vice President Zhuang Dingxian's report. Everything proceeded in an orderly fashion. Zhuang Dingxian's report was relatively long, focusing on specialized academic issues. Ding Yupeng, sitting on the podium, saw Han Peng beside him restlessly shifting in his chair. He knew the old gentleman had serious hemorrhoids and couldn't sit too long. Plus, he hadn't rested well last night and barely ate a few bites at breakfast. He wondered whether he could find a way to have him leave the venue early and return to his room to rest a while. This afternoon, he'd accompany Han Peng to Shandi Lake to tour Jiaoying Bridge. Much of Yanhe County's work, from Chufeng Group's project investment attraction to Yanhe's county-to-city conversion, had received Han Peng's strong support. Ding Yupeng's promotion from vice county magistrate to county magistrate also benefited from his vigorous recommendation. In Ding Yupeng's mind, Han Peng was both a highly respected leader and a caring senior who personally looked after him. So, each time Han Peng visited Yanhe, he'd accompany him throughout, taking care more thoughtfully than his own father. Presently, Ding Yupeng leaned close to Han Peng's ear, quietly asking whether he wanted to leave early to return to his room to rest. But Han Peng shook his head, propping both hands on the chair's armrests to sit more upright and adopting an earnest listening posture. Seeing this, Ding Yupeng smiled bitterly. Han Peng had always greatly respected intellectuals and felt that leaving early from the opening ceremony would be impolite. This point alone made the old gentleman worth studying carefully. Ding Yupeng secretly sighed. At this moment, his phone rang. Answering a call at this time was obviously inappropriate. He'd intended to turn off his phone directly, but glancing at the caller display, he saw it was Public Security Bureau Chief Ma. If not for something important, the Public Security Bureau chief wouldn't call his mobile. Ding Yupeng could only stand up from his seat, tiptoeing away from the podium. As soon as Ding Yupeng reached the corridor outside the venue, he impatiently answered Chief Ma's call. But after hearing just a few sentences, his expression became grave. This morning, around 9 o'clock, Guanjiapu villagers carrying a coffin blocked Chufeng Group's entrance. At first, only a few dozen people, but more and more gathered. So far, several hundred people have assembled. Chief Ma's voice wasn't loud, but to Ding Yupeng it sounded like a string of thunderclaps, making his ears buzz. What to do? County magistrate. Chief Ma obviously couldn't determine how to handle this, anxiously awaiting his instructions. Ding Yupeng used as calm a tone as possible. You arrange police to first maintain on-site order. Come to my office immediately for a meeting. After finishing the call with Chief Ma, Ding Yupeng immediately phoned Secretary Little Liu, having him invite the Politics and Law Committee Secretary and several politics and law officials for a meeting, then hurriedly walked out of the hotel, getting into the car parked at the entrance, heading straight for the county committee compound. In the car, though Ding Yupeng appeared relatively calm on the surface, his heart was a mess like a pot of porridge. He secretly cursed. Damn it, not happening early or late, but precisely at this critical juncture, truly knows how to time things. Disputes between Chufeng Group and surrounding residents weren't just a day or two old. Chufeng Group's predecessor was Yanhe Fertilizer Factory, built in the early 1970s, which was Yanhe County's largest state-owned enterprise at that time. Equipment and production processes represented the provincial and even national chemical fertilizer industry's advanced level at the time. From the early 70s to the early 80s, Yanhe Fertilizer Factory, with an annual output of 20 million tons, continuously supplied urgently needed urea and phosphate fertilizer to the surrounding areas. Back then, the fertilizer factory's annual profit and taxes alone accounted for over half of Yanhe County's fiscal revenue. Its star status in county-wide industrial and agricultural production was thus evident. fertilizer factory cadres and workers also had an inexpressible sense of superiority. Male workers, however ugly, needn't worry about finding girlfriends. Female workers finding boyfriends were even more choosy, so proud that their eyes grew to their foreheads. However, from the mid to late 1980s onward, as private enterprises emerged like bamboo shoots after spring rain, the state-owned enterprise's monopoly gradually eroded. Facing increasingly fierce competition, Yanhe Fertilizer Factory's former advantages disappeared. Plus, equipment aging and poor management, this once unlimited star enterprise gradually declined. Output and profit slid year by year until negative growth appeared. From occupying half of Yanhe's fiscal revenue as a tax giant, it became a debt-laden, loss-making enterprise that couldn't even pay workers' wages, maintaining operations on loans. In subsequent years, to shed this heavy fiscal burden, Yanhe County's successive leaders exhausted all means, constantly working on reforms. In the mid to late 90s, state enterprise restructuring was in full swing nationwide. The county party secretary at the time personally led people to reform and open the frontier province of Guangdong to attract investment, hoping to find capable enterprises for joint management, reviving the fertilizer factory on the brink of bankruptcy. A joint venture partner was found, but after operating for several years, it not only failed to lead the fertilizer factory out of difficulty, but also threw in several million yuan more in loans. That Guangdong boss, who was invited like a deity by the county party secretary, actually oiled the soles of his feet and fled. Workers unable to receive wages daily blocked the entrance to the county committee compound. Cadres entering and leaving had to use the back door. It was at this time that Ding Yupeng, as the vice county head in charge of industry, taking advantage of his part-time postgraduate studies at Wuhan University, connected with Gu Chaoyang, Director General of the U.S. Duke Company's China region, through then Vice Governor Han Peng. After much negotiation, ultimately sold most of the fertilizer factory's equity to Duke Company for 20 million yuan. Duke Company, an American multinational corporation, had branches in over 50 countries worldwide. Its business scope originally focused on real estate investment and mining development. From late last century onward, it began involving itself in biological and agricultural seed technology research and development. By early this century, Duke Company had successfully promoted company-developed genetically modified soybeans, cotton, and corn to Latin America, Southeast Asia, India, and other regions and countries, not only obtaining abundant profits, but firmly controlling American enterprises' dominant position in the global crop seed market. Furthermore, in these countries and regions, it built large batches of glyphosate and herbicide pesticide and fertilizer factories that genetically modified crops relied on for survival, establishing a complete genetically modified agricultural production chain. Recent years, Duke Company gradually turned its gaze toward China. To gain a foothold in China's enormous market, company management formulated a highly targeted development strategy, first conducting carpet-style promotion in several major cotton and corn-producing areas, using preferential prices and yields far exceeding ordinary seeds, plus advantages like insect resistance and easy cultivation to attract Chinese farmers traditionally pursuing low-cost and good income, quickly having genetically modified agricultural products occupy China's vast land and granaries. Simultaneously, seizing opportunities from Chinese state enterprises undergoing restructuring and transformation, purchasing enterprises in difficulty at low prices everywhere, converting them to produce glyphosate herbicides, thus establishing a genetically modified crop production chain controlled by Duke Company. After being acquired by Duke Company, Chufeng Group changed from a state joint venture to a foreign capital-controlled enterprise. Original urea and phosphate fertilizer production naturally also stopped, and production shifted to glyphosate herbicides that genetically modified crops couldn't do without. In just 2 or 3 years, glyphosate and herbicides produced by Chufeng Group gained a foothold in the market. Output, profit, and tax climbed all the way, quickly becoming Yanhe County's tax giant, again supporting half the county's fiscal revenue. So whether from interests or emotions, the county treated Chufeng Group as our own enterprise. Every year's work summaries and evaluations would give it heavy emphasis. County leaders reporting to the province and the city always used Chufeng Group as a successful example of state enterprise restructuring and transformation, speaking authoritatively and treating it like family jewels. That proud energy compared to Yanhe Fertilizer Factory's glorious period was no less impressive. Except now, Chufeng Group, as a foreign capital enterprise, aside from paying taxes, had no subordinate relationship with Yanhe County regarding production, management, or operations. As the saying goes, blessings don't come in pairs, misfortunes don't come alone. Troubles quickly followed one after another. Because Chufeng Group's products and chemical raw materials severely harmed the environment and human bodies. Within 2 years, residents around the factory began to contract a strange disease. First, patients developed coughing typical of common respiratory infections. Afterward, they developed itching and pain throughout their bodies, and the skin began to show large-scale ulceration. For this strange disease, not only county hospitals but even provincial capital hospitals had no treatment methods. Several patients successively died from this strange disease. Initially, people were utterly baffled, but before long, someone discovered the culprit causing this strange disease was actually Chufeng Group, producing item after item of conclusive evidence. From the choking, strange smell emitted by smoke discharged from Chufeng Group's chimney to wherever factory sewage leaked, vegetation withered one after another. Even pigs and dogs died from poisoning after eating it. Chufeng Group was located in the county's northwest, a place called Guanjiapu. Previously a natural village, when Yanhe Fertilizer Factory was completed in the early 1970s, villagers here converted to urban household registration. Most young people were recruited to work at the fertilizer factory. The elderly relied on selling vegetables and doing small businesses around the factory area. Though not an iron rice bowl, life was better than farming. As the saying goes, rely on mountains to eat mountains, rely on water to eat water. Guanjiapu residents for many years relied on Yanhe Fertilizer Factory, step by step achieving comfortable lives. The fertilizer factory's prosperity and decline were closely tied to its interests. Even after it became Chufeng Group, this remained the case. But Guanjiapu people never anticipated that this factory, which had brought them so many benefits, would now become an invisible killer. In less than 3 years, it had claimed several Guanjiapu people's lives. Soon, strange disease patients' families repeatedly visited the county committee compound, petitioning and demanding that Chufeng Group provide compensation. Guanjiapu residents where Chufeng Group was located mailed petition letters to provincial and municipal environmental protection departments. Some even wrote letters to the Wuhan and Beijing media to complain. Thus, higher departments repeatedly returned petition letters to the desks of Yanhe County leaders. Environmental protection departments issued written notices more than once, requiring local government to supervise Chufeng Group's rectification within deadlines, otherwise severe punishment would be imposed. Some newspaper, TV station, and website reporters even came uninvited, sneaking through streets and alleys to investigate and interview, then presenting written drafts to county leaders. The implication being that, if true, articles would appear immediately. This undoubtedly brought enormous trouble to Yanhe County leaders. What made them difficult was that Chufeng Group's pollution problem was like lice on a monk's head, obvious. According to relevant national policies, immediate rectification was required. Serious cases should immediately halt production. But if doing so, Yanhe County's fiscal revenue would also suffer a serious impact. Regarding this, Yanhe County leadership had always held two completely opposite attitudes. One was headed by County Party Secretary Old Wei, who believed one couldn't disregard ordinary people's lives and living environment as the price for fiscal revenue and GDP, and advocated strict adherence to environmental protection policies, rectify what should be rectified, halt what should be halted. The other was led by County Magistrate Ding Yupeng, who believed development was the hard truth. Without Chufeng Group, a tax giant providing strong support for county fiscal revenue, the entire county's cadres and masses would be eating. What development to discuss? So, he advocated minimizing Chufeng Group's pollution problem to the smallest scope, making maximum efforts to resolve contradictions, striving to transform mutual destruction into mutual success. The two viewpoints were diametrically opposed, neither yielding. Old Wei more than once knocked Ding Yuping at county party standing committee meetings, straightforwardly criticizing his mind for harboring serious local protectionism and bloody GDP-ism tendencies. Old Wei rose from being a secretary, talking eloquently, impeccably, about grand principles set after set. But Ding Yuping's heart was very clear. Principles are principles. Reality is reality. If truly handling Chufeng Group pollution incidents according to policy, the first to bear the brunt would be a halving of fiscal revenue. Most factory cadres and workers couldn't be paid and had to rely again on debt to pay wages as before. Indirect impacts weren't limited to these. Take county-to-city conversion. Yanhe had been working everywhere on this matter for at least over a decade, from provincial, municipal, and central relevant departments to those Yanhe origin old comrades in important positions. Every year before Spring Festival, County 4 major family leaders had to visit separately. But they'd never achieved substantial progress. The reason was that Yanhe's industrial output value accounted for too low a share of the county's total output value. The primary condition for the county-to-city conversion was that the county's industrial output must account for a certain proportion of total output. This was a stringent standard. Below standard, everything was off the table. Fortunately, with Chufeng Group's successful restructuring and transformation, profit and tax rose sharply, quickly changing the county's low industrial output situation. County-to-city conversion, this long-delayed major matter, was thus readily resolved. As county magistrate, Ding Yuping deeply knew Chufeng Group's dependency relationship with Yanhe County's entire economic society. Pulling one hair moved the whole body. If handled improperly, even lightly, it would drag down Yanhe's economic development. If handled seriously, it would affect the entire county's social stability. He felt Old Wei, this flying pigeon faction, dispatched cadre, had the advantage of understanding policy, standing high and seeing far. But shortcomings were also obvious, for instance, liking high-toned, high-postured words and actions. When trouble occurred, he would slap his butt and leave. Whether Yanhe's work was good or bad, whether cadres and workers could receive monthly wages, none of it concerned him anymore. But Ding Yuping, he was a native of Yanhe County, rising from the grassroots step by step. Doing anything, he couldn't just think of his own promotion but had to fully consider the vast cadre's concrete interests. If they couldn't get wages, people would poke this county magistrate's backbone, not Old Wei's. Therefore, Ding Yuping consistently couldn't bring himself to deliver a killing blow to Chufeng Group. He could only adopt a covering-up method, steeling himself to withstand pressure from all sides, coordinating with public security and environmental protection departments to urgently coordinate contradictions between Chufeng Group and harmed parties, even personally going to Beijing to intercept petitioners, patiently persuading those petitioners. To appease petitioners' resentment, he often paid out of pocket to treat the other party to meals. For a while, Ding Yuping felt he'd become a granny, going everywhere, saying nice things and smoothing things over. Where there's a will, there's a way. Ding Yuping's efforts finally had returns. Look, county-to-city conversion will soon be officially unveiled. The China Sociology Association's high-level forum was also being grandly held in Yanhe County. This was Yanhe's first time hosting a national-level conference historically. Moreover, right before county-to-city conversion, a rare opportunity to publicize Yanhe externally. Of course, also a critical chess moves for his promotion, but Ding Yuping hadn't anticipated that, at this critical juncture, the Chufeng Group pollution problem he'd desperately covered up for so long would suddenly erupt. Even more fatal, County Party Secretary Old Wei hadn't returned from party school study. Now he, this county party vice secretary and county magistrate was fully responsible for county party committee and government work, meaning how this matter was handled, good or bad, was entirely his sole responsibility. Since assuming county magistrate, Ding Yuping had never before encountered such great pressure. Instantly, he felt his shoulders heavy, a feeling of imminent storm. As the car neared the county committee compound, Ding Yuping suddenly had the driver turn around, instructing, "Go to Chufeng Group." The driver had driven for Ding Yuping many years, ordinarily speaking quite casually. He casually asked, "Not having the meeting?" Words barely out, he glimpsed from the rearview mirror the county magistrate's gloomy expression, silent. He immediately realized he'd talked too much, regretting enough to want to slap himself twice. Chufeng Group was less than 3 kilometers from the county committee compound, arrived in the blink of an eye. From afar, Ding Yuping saw Chufeng Group's entrance crowded with people, densely packed like a big market, the entire road blocked. He could only have the driver park the car roadside while he got out to walk. The further forward he walked, the more people gathered. Not far ahead stopped a police car. Several police stood by the car, vigilantly watching the crowd gathered at Chufeng Group's entrance. One older police officer wearing sunglasses held a walkie-talkie, quietly calling something. Ding Yuping recognized him as a County Public Security Bureau vice director, but he didn't disturb the other party, instead brushing past, continuing toward Chufeng Group's entrance. Nearby police concentrated on monitoring the gathered crowd, none recognizing him. Now Ding Yuping was less than 200 meters from Chufeng Group. He saw the factory gate blocked tight. Right at the gate's center sat a coffin. Surrounding the coffin were crowds, some wearing mourning clothes and hemp, chests holding not just one but several deceased persons' portraits. Some held what appeared to be text and picture materials downloaded from the internet about toxic chemical substances contained in Chufeng Group's products. Among them were elderly, young people, men, women, without exception all wearing righteously indignant expressions, constantly waving fists, shouting slogans on banners, step by step pressing toward the gate. In the crowd, several young men wearing gauze masks painted with skulls stood before the coffin, having people photograph them. At this time, Chufeng Group's gate had been sealed dead with stone railings. A group of black uniformed security guards lined up, standing ready, preventing gathered crowds from rushing in. The entire scene was chaotic, danger of losing control at any moment. At this moment, Ding Yuping's phone rang, Secretary Little Liu calling. "County Magistrate Chufeng Group's boss Chen came. Do you think—" Before he finished, Ding Yuping impatiently said, "His own doorstep has such a big mess. Instead of thinking of solutions, what's he looking for me for? I have no time to chat with him right now. Have him return to the company immediately." He practically shouted these words. Little Liu repeatedly said, Okay. "Oh, right, County Magistrate, several politics and law leaders have all arrived, just waiting for you to meet." Ding Yuping said, "I'll be right there," and hung up. Ding Yuping hadn't anticipated that, while taking the call just now, several nearby people had recognized him. "Hey, isn't that Ding Yuping?" "Right, no mistake. County Magistrate Ding. He's doing private visits incognito." "Perfect. Hand him the petition." "Hand what petition?" "Directly ask him. How will this matter be handled?" While talking, people surrounded him. Ding Yuping, seeing the situation was bad, quickly squeezed out of the crowd, almost jogging into the car parked roadside. Ding Yuping, rushing back to the county committee compound, immediately convened an emergency meeting of politics and law officials. Based on the scene he'd just witnessed at Chufeng Group, plus his analysis of the situation, he believed this illegal gathering incident was obviously premeditated and planned by someone, attempting to use the so-called strange disease and pollution problems to provoke trouble, achieving certain personal objectives. If not promptly stopped, it could very likely cause bad influence and affect Yanhe County's reform, development, and social stability. Everyone think about it. The National Sociology Association High-Level Forum just opened. The county-to-city conversion unveiling ceremony is about to be held. They choose this time to cause trouble. Isn't this ulterior motive? Ding Yuping spoke his worries without concealment. Whether from maintaining stability or Yanhei's external image, we must immediately disperse gathered crowds, quickly restore Chufeng Group's normal production and work order. Public Security Bureau Chief Ma, like Ding Yuping just down from the scene, immediately stated agreement with Ding Yuping's opinion. But the Politics and Law Committee Secretary was somewhat undecided. Should we call to seek Secretary Wei's opinion? Secretary Wei is studying at party school, doesn't understand on-site conditions. Having him give opinions, isn't that making things difficult for him? Chief Ma immediately raised objections. During Secretary Wei's study period, County Magistrate Ding presides over overall work. This is the county committee's decision. Good. Decided then. Ding Yuping made up his mind, assigning Chief Ma to rapidly organize police forces, striving to complete clearing the scene before dark. Making this decision, Ding Yuping sighed with relief. But he never anticipated that precisely due to this decision, the small-scale gathering incident at Chufeng Group's entrance would instead transform into major riots throughout the entire county. Chapter 31. Thinking of his old classmate Ding Yuping, who was county magistrate, Ma La couldn't help breaking into a sweat on his behalf. According to the high-level forum agenda, Ma La's speech was arranged for this afternoon. The county government office had originally notified him to report to Heko Hotel the previous day, but two cooperative farming households had a minor dispute. He and Gu Yu from afternoon until evening had been working on these two households, so only this morning did he hurriedly rush toward Yani County. In the car, thinking he'd finally get to see Murong Chu this time, his heart couldn't help feeling somewhat excited. The short-haul bus had just come ashore from the ferry when Ma La saw quite a few people at the dock whispering to each other, discussing animatedly. Everyone's mouths were unanimously transmitting a shocking message. Someone had blocked the county party committee and government. Of course, more specific versions said, yesterday someone carrying a coffin surrounded Chufeng Group's entrance, blocking all entry and exit passages. The company's administrative building and production area were almost completely paralyzed. Toward evening, the County Public Security Bureau dispatched police to forcibly disperse crowds gathered at the entrance to Chufeng Group. They even used trucks to haul that coffin to the crematorium, ordering families to cremate the deceased's body that very night. Chufeng Group also made a promise. If families cremated the deceased that evening, they could receive a sizable compensation. Overdue meant not a penny. Who knew the Public Security Bureau and Chufeng Group's final ultimatum not only failed to control the situation, but also deeply enraged people. Early next morning, they shifted their target toward the Yani County Party Committee and government. This time, gathered people carried not one coffin but several. The number of people exceeded yesterday at Chufeng Group's entrance, not only blocking the county committee compound's gate, but also the entire road. Moreover, because the county committee compound was located in the county center, information spread fast. Not only did half the county arrive quickly, but villagers from nearby villages also swarmed forward, competing. In just half a day, the crowds gathered expanded to several of the county's main streets. The bus had just driven past the river embankment. Going further forward, it couldn't move. Passengers on the bus could only get off and walk into the city. Ma La followed other passengers forward. The further forward, the denser the crowd, so crowded that one couldn't take steps. From within the crowd continuously came unsettling messages. Someone overturned a car at the county committee compound entrance. A shop at the department store was looted. The government deployed police. They even brought guns. Heard the province will also deploy armed police. Helicopters are out. Each time hearing such a message, Ma La's heart jumped sharply. Regarding Chufeng Group's air pollution problems, he'd long heard rumors. But he hadn't anticipated that contradictions would intensify to the serious degree they have today. Thinking of his old classmate Ding Yuping, who was a county magistrate, Ma La couldn't help breaking into a sweat on his behalf. Ma La didn't know that, facing the out-of-control situation, Ding Yuping had already reported to Provincial People's Congress Vice Director Han Peng, attending the high-level forum in Yanhei. Vice Director Han directly reported and sought help from the provincial party secretary and governor, simultaneously notifying County Party Secretary Old Wei, who was studying far away in Beijing. Things having reached this point, Old Wei probably couldn't say much either. Everything could only wait until after this sudden riot subsided. Nearing the construction road intersection, Ma La, looking up ahead, couldn't help being startled. From the county committee compound to the theater and department store entrance, the entire street was packed with people. Gathered crowds were black and dense, extending like dark clouds. The air was filled with a burnt, acrid smell of tires and clothing being burned. Clamorous voices, slogan shouts, car horn honks, and various noises mixed together, almost bursting eardrums. Return our relatives, return our health. Return our clean air. Chufeng Group, get out of Yanhe. If no action now, the next to die could be you. Slogan shouts rose, wave after wave. People continuously held cameras, clicking and snapping photos. Many people, like visiting temple fairs, excitedly weaved through crowds, loudly discussing as if no one was around. These officials only know how to rely on foreigners to make money, disregarding ordinary people's lives. They should have been given some color long ago. If Chufeng Group doesn't move out of the county for even one day, who knows when we might also contract that strange disease? Exactly. Whenever the northwest wind blows, you can smell that choking odor. Today's wind is also northwest. Smell it. Do you smell it? Ma La sniffed his nose. Sure enough, he smelled a choking odor. He subconsciously covered his nose with his hand. By now, it was nearly noon. Ma La remembered he still had to speak at the high-level forum this afternoon. He tried pushing through crowds, attempting to walk toward Yanhe Hotel's direction. But he discovered a portion of the gatherers had also begun moving toward the hotel direction. He vaguely heard someone using a megaphone shouting, "Come on, everyone. Follow me to Yanhe Hotel. A high-level forum is being held there. Attending are professors and scholars from across the nation. Let's go reveal to them Chufeng Group's truth about polluting the environment, treating human life as worthless." Thus, crowds like a surging, turbulent river began slowly surging toward Yanhe Hotel's direction. Ma La, like a floating duckweed, was swept up, clustered, pushed, and shoved by rapid waves. Suddenly, people ahead cried out, "Police are coming! Hitting people on sight! Someone's been beaten bloody! Run!" The crowd suddenly became chaotic, each like headless flies scurrying east and west. But Ma La didn't run. Instead, he continued walking against the flow toward Heku Hotel's direction. After a few steps, his phone rang. He pulled out his phone from his pocket. Just about to answer, he saw several people frantically running on the road ahead. While running, they picked up bricks from the ground and threw them backward. Several police wearing anti-riot helmets pursued relentlessly from behind, electric batons in hands, crackling, emitting terrifying electric light. Suddenly, a young man with blood streaming from his forehead stumbled forward, tripping over something and falling to the ground. Ma La hesitated, wanting to reach out to help. But just as he extended his hand, a police officer caught up, indiscriminately swinging the electric baton at him. Too late to dodge, his head received a heavy blow. Chapter 32. 9,800 words have been omitted here. Chapter 33. Facing the weeping Manu, Ma La suddenly recalled that female apprentice of Wu Daokun's who'd drunk pesticide and killed herself after being abandoned by Li Haijun years ago. Cold came, heat went, autumn left, winter arrived. Shen Huangzhou welcomed another new spring. Not long after spring began, on a clear, sunny day, Gu Yu drove a brand-new farm tractor back to Shen Huangzhou. He stopped the tractor at Old Wan's shop entrance by the village sluice gate dam, jumping down from the driver's seat. He said he wanted to buy cigarettes, but actually wanted to show off the newly purchased tractor to the villagers. Right now was still the slack farming season. Many people with nothing to do tucked their hands in their sleeves, wandering around the dam, chatting idly, playing cards. How could he miss such a perfect showing-off opportunity? Before Gu Yu even entered Old Wan's shop, people swarmed over, surrounding the tractor. One person touched the shiny black steering wheel with their hand, another kicked the tire over half a person's height. Some bolder ones simply climbed onto the rear carriage, looking at the pair of agricultural equipment, clicking their tongues non-stop. Look, there's even equipment for plowing fields, harrowing, and rice transplanting. Naturally, this isn't just any ordinary tractor. Gu Yu smoothly took over the conversation, ticking off points on his fingers, introducing one by one. Besides hauling cargo and people, attach a plow and it can till fields and harrow ground. Attach a transplanter and it can transplant rice. There's no work it can't do. Someone enviously asked him, Gu Yu, when my family plows fields and transplants rice in the future, can you give me a discount on renting this machine? This Tongshin cooperative vice director shook his head like a rattling drum, face full of seriousness. This machine wasn't bought by my family. It's Tongshin Cooperative's collective property. I alone can't make that decision. Aren't you the vice director? How can you not be in charge? Our cooperative discusses everything according to the bylaws. Not to mention me, even Teacher Ma can't act outside the bylaws. Huh, bringing out the director already. I think Teacher Ma is much easier to talk to than you, this vice. Gu Yu probably felt he'd spoken too rigidly, so he changed his tune. Of course, we're all neighbors. As long as this equipment isn't too busy, I'll definitely help everyone. Just have to wait until the cooperative members' farm work is done first. Everything has priorities. Inside before outside. All this talk just means your cooperative people get priority, someone said resentfully. One day I'll submit an application to Teacher Ma, join the cooperative, then see what you have to say. The cooperative's door is always open, welcoming everyone to join anytime. But if you really want to submit a joining application, no need to find Teacher Ma. Give it directly to me. Why? Because Teacher Ma's been writing a book recently, Gu Yu said mysteriously. Don't bother him with such trifling matters. After last autumn's harvest, Tongshin Cooperative had another bumper crop. Tongshin brand ecological rice not only became a well-known brand in Yanhe County, but also sold to the provincial capital, Wuhan's supermarkets. As for Mala's kiwis, they sold even more widely through online sales to locations nationwide. Several farming households eagerly wanted to try planting kiwis, too. In less than 3 years, Tongshin Cooperative had grown from the initial 5 households to over 20. During this spring festival period, several people working in cities wanted to apply to join the cooperative. The situation was encouraging, yet pressing. As a cooperative vice director, Gu Yu had a greater sense of achievement than ordinary farmers, but also many more matters to worry about. Look, to solve the needs after the cooperative's expansion, after discussing with Teacher Ma, they'd used cooperative funds to buy this multifunctional farm tractor. At this moment, Old Juan emerged from the shop swinging his empty sleeve. He circled the tractor a complete round, then said in an expert's tone, Gu Yu, driving isn't child's play. You must practice your skills well. Don't have accidents. Gu Yu glanced at Old Juan's empty sleeve, quickly pulling out a small plastic-covered booklet from his pocket. Uncle Juan, you can rest completely assured. I studied at a proper driving school for a month. This is my newly tested driver's license. Please take a look. Old Juan took the license, examining it back and forth before his eyes for quite a while before returning it to Gu Yu, muttering strangely to himself. 30 years? Gu Yu didn't hear Old Juan's last words clearly. He recalled Teacher Ma once telling him the origin of Old Juan's severed arm. His heart stirred. Just as he wanted to say something, this former hand tractor operator had already turned around, swinging that empty, dangling sleeve, returning to the shop. After buying cigarettes, Gu Yu had just returned to the tractor driver's seat when he saw Zhao Guangfu carrying an empty soy sauce bottle walking along the canal. He hesitated slightly, starting the motor. The motor's roar attracted Zhao Guangfu's gaze, but when he saw Gu Yu clearly in the driver's seat, his expression suddenly darkened. Still carrying the empty soy sauce bottle, he returned home along the canal. Completely opposite to the triumphant Gu Yu, Zhao Guangfu's recent mood wasn't very good. Due to major fluctuations in the international cotton market, last year's cotton prices plummeted. Compared to the previous year, each Dan unit of weight of raw cotton dropped by 1/3. This meant Zhao Guangfu's cotton income decreased by nearly half compared to the previous year. Moreover, because he planted insect-resistant cotton, expenses for seeds, fertilizer, and herbicides exceeded those for ordinary cotton considerably. After deducting these costs, a year's pure income left little. For Zhao Guangfu, who'd just tasted insect-resistant cotton's high yield and abundant production sweetness, this was tantamount to being struck on the head. He always felt he couldn't hold his head up in front of the villagers. Of course, what made him even harder to face were other insect-resistant cotton planting farmers. Initially, they'd all planted insect-resistant cotton and joined the insect-resistant cotton cooperative out of trust in him, Zhao Guangfu. Now encountering such a blow, even if they didn't complain, he felt somewhat bad about it. Moreover, he knew several struggling households had initially borrowed high-interest loans to buy insect-resistant cotton seeds that cost several times as much as ordinary cotton seeds. When cotton prices plummeted, money from selling cotton wasn't even enough to repay loans. To avoid high-interest debt collectors, they hadn't even spent last New Year at home. Just after spring began this year, cooperative farmers came knocking on Zhao Guangfu's door one after another, some complaining of hardship, some pleading. Ultimately, they wanted him to come up with ideas and find solutions. First, given the high cost of insect-resistant cotton, was it still worth continuing to plant? Second, if continuing to plant, where would money for these alarmingly expensive seeds come from? They weren't asking Zhao Guangfu to lend them money. The meaning was obvious. Initially, his son-in-law Li Haijun had come to the village promoting insect-resistant cotton. Now everyone encountered difficulties. Why not find him to help? Zhao Guangfu understood everyone's request wasn't excessive, since establishing a cooperative meant that when encountering difficulties, everyone worked together to find solutions. As the director, he had an unavoidable responsibility. Son-in-law Li Haijun's company was growing increasingly large, responsible for insect-resistant cottonseed and glyphosate herbicide sales across several counties. If everyone temporarily couldn't produce money, buying cotton seeds on credit first, then repaying after harvesting and selling cotton, helping with this small favor shouldn't trouble Haijun, right? Thinking this, Zhao Guangfu planned to make a county trip in a few days to discuss this matter with son-in-law Li Haijun. But what Zhao Guangfu hadn't anticipated, daughter Man Yue, who hadn't even returned to pay New Year respects, had 2 days ago quietly returned to Shenhuangzhou. Regarding Man Yu's homecoming, Cao Guiqiu was naturally overjoyed. As soon as daughter entered, she rummaged through boxes and cabinets, finding New Year goods she'd been too reluctant to bring out, even when eldest son Changqing's family came for New Year visits, bringing them out for daughter to eat. That heartache made even Man Yu herself embarrassed. Zhao Guangfu, who ordinarily didn't show much emotion before children, without waiting for his wife's instructions, killed the family's egg-laying hen, stewing soup to nourish daughter's health. But facing parents' loving care, Man Yu's face showed forced smiles. A pair of elegant eyebrows locked tight, appearing somewhat depressed and unhappy. Her whole person looked much thinner than before. When parents asked why Li Haijun hadn't come with her, Man Yue also stammered evasively, obviously hiding something. Zhao Guangfu and Cao Guiqiu didn't know their daughter Man Yue and son-in-law Li Haijun's marriage was facing serious crisis. After marrying, Man Yu initially managed finances at Li Haijun's company for a while. Husband as boss, wife managing husband's money, many companies operated this way. Man Yue was quite satisfied with this life. Whether at work or home, that double-in double-out, husband singing, wife following feeling let her experience marriage life's sweetness. But after less than a year, Li Haijun had Man Yue leave the company. He said this arrangement was for more standardized company management. If both spouses were at the company, employees would feel they were outsiders, lacking owner responsibility sense. Secondly, Li Haijun wanted Man Yu to have a child earlier. She wasn't young anymore. To conceive, the couple had visited hospitals repeatedly, but Man Yu's belly remained motionless. Li Haijun grew somewhat anxious. "Yue, your biggest task now is staying home, properly bearing me a son," he said coaxingly. "I'm already over 50. If there's no son or daughter to inherit the family business, what use is all my money?" Man Yu followed her husband's arrangements, returning home as a full-time housewife. What she never anticipated, before conceiving a child, Li Haijun had an affair. The mistress was Li Haijun's secretary and company general manager assistant, called Wang Di, a recently recruited female college graduate. Each business trip Li Haijun always brought Wang Di, going out for 10 days to half a month. Initially, Man Yu paid no attention. Company business was busy, in an upward phase. Frequent business trips were normal, right? On the eve of last spring festival, after Li Haijun returned from a Beijing business trip, while bathing, his phone left on the sofa rang. Man Yu casually picked it up to bring to the bathroom for her husband. She discovered a text message jumping onto the phone screen. "Darling, have you arrived home?" The sender was precisely Wang Di. She subconsciously opened the message box, seeing a string of messages, all between Li Haijun and Wang Di, each more nauseating than the last. Judging by timing, not long after she left the company, the two had gotten together. An entire spring festival, Man Yue and Li Haijun spent quarreling. They even delayed returning home to pay parents' New Year respects. Once Li Haijun even hit her. Man Yue conceived divorce thoughts, but just then she discovered she was pregnant. Man Yu felt trapped in a dilemma. She wanted to find a place to stay alone for a while, properly considering how to handle her relationship with Li Haijun. So not long after Spring Festival, she returned to Shenhuangzhou to her parents' home. As the saying goes, mothers know daughters best, fathers know sons. From Man Yu's worried expression, Cao Guiqiu guessed daughter and son-in-law had quarreled. Asking privately confirmed it. As a mother, her mood immediately became chaotic. Man Yue had only formed a family in her early 30s. She'd originally thought daughter would live harmoniously with Li Haijun for life, hadn't expected a crisis to appear so quickly, and quite serious-looking. Cao Guiqiu's heart hung suspended, sighing endlessly, constantly crossing herself, praying before her chest, beseeching God to bless daughter and son-in-law's reconciliation. Initially, she concealed it from Zhao Guangfu. The old man had opposed daughter marrying Li Haijun from the start. Now something went wrong. Wouldn't he be even angrier? Seeing his wife Cao Guiqiu depressed, Zhao Guangfu had already guessed 8 or 9 out of 10. One day, taking advantage of Man Yu's walk, he cornered his wife in the room and questioned her thoroughly. Only then did Cao Guiqiu tell him about daughter and son-in-law's conflict. Zhao Guangfu's face immediately darkened. After holding it in quite a while, finally squeezed out one sentence. "I knew all along Li Haijun was no good. You still didn't believe it." This way, Zhao Guangfu could only temporarily abandon thoughts of finding Li Haijun for help. Man Yu's person was in Shenhuangzhou, but her mind held the county's own new home. That place, not long ago, she'd still regarded as hers and Li Haijun's shared love nest. Now, because of the appearance of the female college student called Wang Di, it had become a testimony to pain and shame. How Man Yu wanted to cry her fill before parents like suffering grievances in childhood. But besides making parents worry more for her, what else could this accomplish? She could only bury her belly full of bitterness deep in her heart, enduring alone. All day long, silent and speechless, either shutting herself in her room, watching TV and sleeping, or wandering the village inside and out aimlessly like a lost person. One afternoon, Man Yu unconsciously walked to the river embankment, seeing the house with the windmill and recalling the scene of visiting Ma La together with Li Haijun several years ago. Man Yu suddenly felt an impulse to find Teacher Ma and pour out her heart thoroughly before him. Ma La was writing in his study. Man Yu's sudden visit quite surprised him. His first reaction was to ask Man Yu, "Where's Teacher Li?" and to instinctively cast his gaze behind Man Yu, searching for Li Haijun's shadow. Man Yu said. "Teacher Ma, stop looking. I came back alone." Ma La probably hadn't completely emerged from his writing state yet, not noticing Man Yu's face's unusual expression. He brought over a chair, had Man Yu sit, poured her a cup of water, and said, "Teacher Li's really busy, doesn't even have time to accompany you home." "Teacher Ma, don't wrongly accuse people," Man Yu coldly laughed. "He has no time to accompany me, but plenty of time to accompany others." Ma La froze, realizing something. He couldn't help looking at Man Yu, seeing her eye circles redden, eyelashes fluttering several times, tears streaming down. At this moment, Man Yue, like facing her own relatives, poured out everything about her and Li Haijun without reservation. After listening, Ma La thought of the young, beautiful female secretary he'd seen at Li Haijun's company last time. For quite a while, he said nothing. He didn't know what to say. Regarding this marriage between Li Haijun and Man Yue, he'd had some doubts from the start. But these two marriage parties, one was his former teacher, one his former student. What could he, an outsider, say? Now, facing the weeping Man Yu, Ma La suddenly recalled that female apprentice of Wu Daokun's who'd drunk pesticide and killed herself after being abandoned by Li Haijun years ago. He couldn't help feeling somewhat self-reproachful. If he'd reminded Man Yu back then, perhaps she wouldn't have fallen to today's circumstances, he thought, with deep regret. Man Yu and Gu Yu had actually been a well-matched pair. Ultimately, both missed each other, but things having reached this point, saying anything seemed pale and powerless. After pouring out her heart's pain, Man Yu felt much lighter inside. That moment, she made up her mind. After returning to the county, she'd divorce Li Haijun, bearing the child in her belly alone. When Man Yu told Ma La of this major decision, Ma La was shocked again. He hadn't expected ordinarily gentle-seeming Man Yu to be so decisive. As the saying goes, better to demolish a temple than break up a marriage. He advised Man Yu, "Wait a bit longer. Give Teacher Li a chance. Perhaps he can change his mind. After all, you're already carrying his child. How about in a few days I go to the county to talk with Teacher Li?" "Teacher Ma, don't waste your efforts," Man Yu smiled through tears. "What kind of person he is, I understand much better than you now." After leaving Ma La's place, Man Yu encountered Gu Yu and Fennel at the village entrance. The couple was pulling a flatbed cart full of ash fertilizer toward the paddy fields, one pulling in front, one pushing behind, appearing so coordinated. Man Yu silently watched the two walk into the distance, heart full of melancholy. Chapter 34. This person not only determined Chufeng Group's and even entire Yanhei's development, but also played a pivotal role in his future promotions. Before Ma La could go to the county, Li Haijun came to Shenhuangzhou. That day, a small motorcade with a police car escort turned off the highway from the county to Heku, driving along the cement-paved canal toward Shenhuangzhou. Li Haijun sat quite imposingly in the rear seat of the front Nissan sedan. He now had a dedicated driver, didn't need to drive himself. Ever since Chufeng Company's general manager was dismissed by Duke Company China headquarters for last year's strange disease incident, Li Haijun's company formally joined Chufeng Group. He himself transformed into the group's director and executive vice general manager. Due to Chufeng Group's pivotal position in Yanhei, Li Haijun naturally also became a figure attracting attention. All this, besides Gu Chaoyang's vigorous promotion, also related to the series of management changes at Chufeng Group after the strange disease incident occurred. The original general manager, though expert-born, was dispatched from outside by headquarters. He had poor handling ability, lacked local network resources, thus leading to the serious riot. If not for the Yanhei government's desperate protection, Chufeng Group might have completely collapsed. Based on this lesson, Chufeng Group's actual controller, Gu Chaoyang, exceptionally promoted Li Haijun to the group's decision-making level. Sitting beside Li Haijun was his assistant, Wang Di. This female college graduate, hired not long ago, stuck very close to Li Haijun. The two were almost nestled together. Li Haijun, however, leaned his body to the other side, obviously wanting to avoid this overly intimate contact. He wasn't avoiding anything before the driver, but because of concerns about those two people in the car behind, psychologically restraining himself somewhat. Following closely behind the Nissan was an even higher-grade Audi sedan. Sitting in the car besides Yan'an City Mayor Ding Yuping was an important figure, Chufeng Group investor Gu Chaoyang. Ever since last year's riot, which was attributed to improper handling, Ding Yuping has received severe criticism from provincial and municipal party committees, resulting in one major party disciplinary demerit. Reportedly, the provincial committee had originally wanted Ding Yuping to resign to take responsibility. If so, his official career would end there. Han Peng repeatedly remonstrated before the provincial party secretary and governor, recounting Ding Yuping's reform spirit and pioneering ability during his Yan'an County magistrate term, plus various realistic difficulties behind the so-called shielding Chufeng Group and improper handling, all to no avail. Looked like this time the provincial committee intended to make an example of Ding Yuping, killing the chicken to warn the monkey. What troubled Ding Yuping wasn't just these matters. The day after the riot occurred, Father Ding Changshui, disregarding his still unhealed waist injury, came to his office with a cane. Before his secretary, he gave him a thorough tongue lashing. When leaving, the cane in his hand nearly poked a hole in the floor. While poking, he roared at him, "You bastard, remember this! From the day the Communist Party started fighting for the country, it made serving people's interests its purpose, always sitting on the side of laboring people. When sitting on the capitalists' side, that's dangerous." He also incidentally cursed Gu Chaoyang thoroughly. If the old chief were still alive, I'd definitely find him and ask how Gu Feng, revolutionary his whole life, ended up raising a son who became a foreign comprador. Before long, Old Wei, having finished Central Party school studies, returned to the province as hoped. Superiors quickly transferred a secretary from a neighboring county at the same level. According to grapevine sources, superiors would soon dispatch a cadre to replace Ding Yuping's position. According to a buddy at the Provincial Committee Organization Department, this had already been discussed and decided by the Standing Committee. Ironclad certainty. During that period, Ding Yuping's days felt like years, constantly anxious like a convict waiting for sentencing. But waiting left and right, the punishment still didn't come. He truly couldn't maintain composure, secretly calling that buddy at the Provincial Organization Department. Who knew that buddy said, "If superiors aren't giving punishment, just continue being your mayor"? This remark left him completely baffled. Asking further, the buddy adamantly refused to reveal half a word, simply hanging up. After another period, the punishment still hadn't come down. Original rumors about punishing him also vanished into thin air. This meant he could continue serving as mayor. Regarding the inexplicable resolution of his career crisis, Ding Yuping remained in the dark for a long time. Not until half a year later, when he went to Wuhan and saw Han Peng, did he learn the truth. Turns out, seeing the provincial party secretary and governor by none of his face, Han Peng called Gu Chaoyang far away in Beijing. Within days, a former subordinate, now serving as a standing committee member, revealed to him that Ding Yuping's alarm had been lifted. He puzzledly asked Han Peng, "What exactly is Gu Chaoyang's background? Even the secretary and governor give him such face?" Ding Yuping felt that Gu Chaoyang's help at the critical moment was tantamount to giving him new life. Gratitude in his heart was inexpressible. However, though Ding Yuping retained his position as mayor after enduring this most serious blow since entering official circles, he seemed to have suffered a serious illness, listless, unable to recover his spirit. He even once considered withdrawing from official circles while ahead. Before making this decision, he again made a special trip to Wuhan seeing Han Peng. Unexpectedly, just opening his mouth with his plan, Han Peng thoroughly cursed him. "You disappoint me too much. If I'd known it would be like this, why would I have thickened this old face, taking roundabout ways, finding Gu Chaoyang to plead with the secretary and governor? When I originally recommended you as Yan'an County magistrate, I was truly blind." The old man panted heavily, face red, neck thick, nearly had a heart attack. Which true achiever hasn't suffered setbacks? Back then, Comrade Xiaoping had 3 rises and falls and ultimately still made a comeback. Comparatively, your little setback counts as nothing. Han Peng almost cursed motherfucker. Ding Yupeng had never seen the old man so angry, but precisely being cursed like this, his manly spirit was suddenly activated. He recalled a song lyric, "Worst case, start over from scratch." His heart, gloomy for a while, brightened again. After the riot occurred, the provincial committee and higher environmental protection departments made a severely polluting enterprise determination of Chufeng Group, ordering the Yanhe City Committee and government to promptly coordinate with Chufeng Group from the standpoint of safeguarding the vast people's health and life safety and quickly relocate the enterprise out of the city. During the earlier period, Ding Yupeng still somewhat resisted this decision, but now he'd thought it through. You must get up from where you fell. At the City Committee Standing Committee meeting, he proactively proposed taking charge of Chufeng Group's relocation work. To find a new site for Chufeng Group, Ding Yupeng, accompanied by Chufeng Group and Yanhe City's relevant department leaders, almost ran through every township in the city. So far, they'd selected several candidate sites, but none particularly met the higher authorities' environmental protection standards. 2 days ago, newly appointed Chufeng Group Executive Vice General Manager Li Haijun proposed a new site target to him, Shenhuangzhou. Regarding this village under Heku's jurisdiction, where he'd spent his youth, Ding Yupeng was naturally familiar. Moreover, his old classmate Ma La was a Shenhuangzhou person. Li Haijun vigorously recommended to him, "When young, I did sent down youth service in Shenhuangzhou. It's 7 or 8 li from Hekou, right beside the river. An embankment separates the village from other villages. This precisely meets the production area must not be located in densely populated areas environmental protection standard." Regarding the newly appointed Executive Vice General Manager, personally nominated by Gu Chaoyang, Ding Yupeng couldn't help but pay close attention. He agreed to first inspect the site on location before deciding. Chufeng Group's relocation was no small matter. For prudence's sake, Ding Yupeng personally invited Gu Chaoyang, hoping he could visit Yanhe for on-site guidance. Yesterday afternoon, Gu Chaoyang just flew from Beijing, arriving in Wuhan, was immediately picked up by Li Haijun, waiting at Tianhe Airport, and brought to Yanhe. At this moment, Gu Chaoyang and Ding Yupeng sat in the rear seats. In front of the passenger seat sat Secretary Little Liu. Whether due to travel fatigue or because yesterday, upon arriving at Yanhe, he'd immediately accompanied Li Haijun non-stop in inspecting Chufeng Group, Gu Chaoyang appeared somewhat tired. He gazed through the car window, his expression indifferent, taking in the scenery. Because he was wearing sunglasses, Ding Yupeng, sitting beside, couldn't clearly see his expression. To date, Gu Chaoyang had only visited Yanhe twice. Each time, Ding Yupeng personally accompanied. Wherever they went, police cars led, reception standards more ceremonious than the governor's, this time even more so. From the moment Gu Chaoyang stepped on Yanhe's ground, Ding Yupeng, like an attendant, constantly accompanied Gu Chaoyang, never leaving his side. No matter what, he had to seize this opportunity to properly thank Gu Chaoyang for his wholehearted help. "Director Gu, when you did sent down youth service in Yanhe, this canal had just been built, right?" Ding Yupeng broke the car's silence. Since leaving the county, Gu Chaoyang had continuously been resting with eyes closed, not saying a word. Ding Yupeng felt he couldn't hold it in. Gu Chaoyang lightly grunted acknowledgement, turning his face toward the car window, gazing at the dried-up canal. Seeing both canal sides covered with wild grass clumps and garbage everywhere, a foul stench assaulted him. He subconsciously fanned twice below his nose with his hand, saying thoughtfully, "Back then, the canal water was clear and clean. You could drink it directly." Gu Chaoyang's words somewhat carried a flavor of recalling past passionate years. Ding Yupeng, sitting beside, couldn't fathom what Gu Chaoyang was thinking. Regarding this rather mysteriously colored special guest, besides heartfelt gratitude, he also had a lingering sense of dread. His heart was clear. This person not only determined Chufeng Group's and even entire Yanhei's development, but also played a pivotal role in his future promotions. Precisely because of this, regarding Gu Chaoyang's rather high and mighty, arrogant expression before him, he paid no attention. At this moment, Secretary Little Liu turned his face from the front seat, quietly saying, "Mayor, we've arrived at Shenhuangzhou." Ding Yuping sighed with relief, leaning forward from his seat. Simultaneously, he saw Li Haijun get out from the car, stopped ahead, trotting in this direction, opening the car door, face full of smiles, saying to Gu Chaoyang, "Director Gu, we've arrived." This small motorcade had just driven into the village entrance when Shenhuangzhou's village party secretary, Guo Dongsheng, came riding a motorcycle from Heku. Following his arrival came Heku's town committee secretary and town mayor. They'd all received calls from the city government office, rushing to welcome Mayor Ding Yuping's group personally visiting Hekou for inspection work. This group of specially identified big shots appearance startled all of Shenhuangzhou. People emerged from their respective homes, surging to the sluice dam before Old Wan's shop entrance. "Hey, isn't that Zhao Guangfu's son-in-law?" Someone quickly recognized Li Haijun emerging from the sedan. Next, someone else recognized City Mayor Ding Yuping. "Look, the one in front is Mayor Ding. No mistake, I've seen him on TV. See that one wearing sunglasses? Heard his position's even higher than Mayor Ding's." They saw Ding Yuping, Gu Chaoyang, and Li Haijun surrounded by town committee secretary, town mayor, and village secretary Guo Dongsheng, walking while pointing here and there. Initially, everyone thought they were going to Zhao Guangfu's home. Unexpectedly, this group passed through the village, heading directly up the river embankment. On the river embankment, Ding Yuping gazed far into the distance. From the riverside outer beach to over 100 households and several thousand mu of cropland inside the embankment, all of Shenhuangzhou lay visible at a glance. If relocating Chufeng Group to this remote small village, it would indeed be most suitable. But how to persuade villagers to voluntarily relocate was a thorny matter. After experiencing that county riot, when involving ordinary people's interests, Ding Yuping couldn't help but be extraordinarily careful and cautious. He called over Heku's secretary and mayor, inquiring in detail about the village's male-female ratio, villagers' income, numbers working elsewhere, and so on. For some questions, the secretary and mayor couldn't answer. Village Secretary Guo Dongsheng supplemented a few sentences. Through this round of inquiry, Ding Yuping gradually gained understanding. As for Hekou secretary, mayor, including Guo Dongsheng, regarding Ding Yuping's group's sudden inspection visit to Shenhuangzhou, they knew absolutely nothing of the purpose, appearing somewhat bewildered answering the mayor's questions. Near the inspection's conclusion, Gu Chaoyang proposed wanting to walk alone by the river. Li Haijun, uneasy, called Wang Di over. "You accompany Director Gu for a riverside stroll?" After Gu Chaoyang and Wang Di left, Li Haijun pointed to that house with the windmill by the river embankment, asking Ding Yuping, "Mayor Ding, Ma La lives right there. Do you want to visit him?" If not for Li Haijun's reminder, Ding Yuping had nearly forgotten. Arriving at old classmate's doorstep, how could I not visit? Nearing noon, Ma La, just returning from the riverside peach orchard, was about to enter the kitchen to cook. Seeing Ding Yuping suddenly visiting, he became somewhat flustered. The house had only so many benches total, not enough for all the visitors to sit. Seeing his embarrassed appearance, Ding Yuping waved his hand. "Old classmate, what politeness. I'm just dropping by to see you today. Don't treat me like some mayor." While speaking, he turned his face, introducing to several cadres. "You probably don't yet understand this old classmate of mine. Back then, he was our county's first batch of entrepreneurs going into business. Now he's established a Tongxin cooperative. In the future, for new rural construction, we'll need capable people like him." Several people listened while nodding in agreement. Probably out of curiosity about his old classmate, Ding Yuping climbed upstairs with great interest to tour. In Ma La's study, seeing the room full of books and periodicals plus a computer, he praised profusely. Your book-loving habit hasn't changed one bit, farming while pursuing scholarship, clearly wanting to be Tao Yuanming. Ma La's no Tao Yuanming, Li Haijun, who'd followed upstairs, said half praisingly, half mockingly. He's full of ambition, wanting to properly transform Shen Huangzhou. Ding Yuping glanced at his old classmate. Seeing his hands still stained with mud, at first glance, he looked like a genuine farmer. So, I'm underestimating you, Ma La said. Don't listen to Teacher Li. I'm just an ordinary villager. Speaking of transforming Shen Huangzhou, that's Dongsheng's business. He's village party secretary. Guo Dongsheng just then came upstairs from below. Hearing Ma La say this, he interjected, "What are you being modest about? You're now Tongxin Cooperative Director. You play a bigger role in the village than me." After touring upstairs and downstairs, Ding Yupeng took his leave with the group. Just then, Wang Di accompanied Gu Chaoyang back from Riverside to the embankment. The group got in cars, in the blink of an eye departing. After seeing off Ding Yupeng's group, Ma La felt somewhat puzzled. This time, Ding Yupeng personally led a team to Shen Huangzhou. What exactly was he inspecting? Also, seen from behind, that mysterious sunglasses-wearing figure Ding Yupeng attended to seemed somewhat familiar. Who was he? Chapter 35. The surging floodwaters, like wild beasts, drove straight in. Overnight, they submerged Shen Huangzhou. Starting from late July, several provinces in the central western region, Sichuan, Hubei, Guizhou, Yunnan, experienced continuous heavy rain. Mountain torrents in the upper Yangtze occurred frequently, causing Jingjiang water to surge by more than 2 meters overnight, approaching flood prevention alert levels. Although this flood was much smaller than 1998's extraordinary flood, Shen Huangzhou's embankment hadn't been reinforced for many years. Many embankment sections were low and loose. Using villagers' words, never mind flood prevention, even a bull's piss could wash it away. The first place floodwaters submerged was Ma La's kiwi orchard. The orchard was outside the river embankment, completely exposed. When the river water rose to the embankment's foot, kiwi tree trunks in the orchard were already submerged, leaving only branches and treetops helplessly floating on the muddy water surface. Fortunately, the kiwis had been picked half a month earlier, express shipped by Bao Xiaoli to various contracted supermarkets and online subscribers. Because online subscribers surged, starting last year, Ma La had contracted all kiwi shipping business to express runner Bao Xiaoli. Though floodwaters hadn't brought direct economic loss to the orchard, those two little hedgehogs, Big Forest and Little Forest, had disappeared. Floodwaters submerged the orchard almost overnight. Big Forest and Little Forest were most likely doomed. Ma La felt like losing relatives, heart empty. Especially Little Cripple, tears streaming down his face. For several consecutive days, he sat on the embankment slope, gazing blankly at the orchard, soaking in river water, pulling green beans from his pocket, scattering them skyward. Before falling into the water, they were blown away by the wind. Seeing this scene, Ma La comforted Little Cripple. Big Forest and Little Forest can swim. When floodwaters recede, they might pop out from somewhere. Though saying this, his heart also felt somewhat sad. Facing this sudden flood, even humans could hardly escape calamity, let alone two little hedgehogs. But what most worried Ma La now was still the embankment's several hundred population and crops. The wheat harvest had just passed. Cotton was budding. Rice had just begun filling. This was the year's most crucial season. In former times, when river water just reached the embankment foot, village and town cadres began organizing masses up the embankment for flood prevention. Woven sacks, coarse sand, and other flood prevention materials were also continuously transported to sentry posts. Day and night, people patrolled, investigating hidden dangers. The entire river embankment became a battlefield. But incredibly, right now, floodwaters were approaching alert levels. On the embankment, never mind town leaders, not even village cadre shadows could be seen. At night, lying in bed, Ma La heard waves pounding the embankment's thunderous roar beside his ears. He couldn't sleep soundly no matter what. He believed that at this very moment, most villagers like him couldn't sleep, Shenhuangzhou people, generation after generation, fought floods. Every flood season they always had extra vigilance, like soldiers standing ready, prepared to go up the embankment at any time to participate in flood rescue and defend their homes and crops. For so many years, it had always been like this. Early one morning, Ma La drove the farm vehicle to Heku, visiting Big Bowl Uncle and, at the same time, seeking out the village party secretary Guo Dongsheng to discuss flood prevention matters. Neither Guo Dongsheng nor his wife was home. Only Guo Dawan curled up in a lounge chair in the hall, eyes half open, half closed, as if sleeping. Member, like a bodyguard, lay at Big Bowl Uncle's feet, eyes half open. Ever since last year when Ma La brought Commune Member to town visiting Big Bowl Uncle, it had stayed at Dongsheng's home, never returning to Shenhuangzhou. Ever since the winter before last, when Big Bowl Uncle was brought to town by Dongsheng, falling and getting injured going downstairs, he'd never returned to Shenhuangzhou's sentry post. Recently, his health grew increasingly poor. Plus, serious cataracts. Seeing anything was like being covered by fog. Eyes were almost in a state of blindness. Ma La had just entered when Big Bowl Uncle opened wide a pair of lusterless eyes, saying toward him, "Is it La Zi?" Ma La was extremely surprised. How could Big Bowl Uncle's nearly blind eyes see him? Big Bowl Uncle seemed to guess his thoughts. A trace of proud smile appeared on his withered face. "La Zi, I recognized you just by hearing your footsteps." Ma La's heart felt moved. Big Bowl Uncle had aged to this state, still caring about him as before. But he couldn't do anything for Big Bowl Uncle. He put the bag of kiwis specially saved for Big Bowl Uncle beside the lounge chair, found a small knife, peeled a kiwi, handing it to Big Bowl Uncle. "These are newly picked kiwis this year. Try one. How's the taste?" After eating the kiwi, Big Bowl Uncle opened wide that toothless mouth, smiling. "So sweet. La Zi, don't bring me such precious things anymore. Wasteful?" Ma La said, "What are you saying? As long as I still plant kiwis, you'll never lack them." Big Bowl Uncle fell silent, expression growing solemn. After a while, muttered to himself, "These days I keep dreaming of that production team building burned by fire, dreaming of Casey and your mother. I figure the day I meet them isn't far off." Hearing Big Bowl Uncle's words, Ma La couldn't help feeling sad. Just then, Guo Dongsheng returned. He handed 2 oil sticks to Big Bowl Uncle, who was sitting in the lounge chair, then led Ma La into the upstairs reception room. Ma La didn't even exchange pleasantries, speaking directly. "Dongsheng, you're quite carefree being this party secretary. Floods have reached the embankment foot. You haven't even gone to look once." Guo Dongsheng said, "No need to look. This water won't rise. Haven't you watched TV? The Three Gorges Dam has already started storing water. From now on, the entire Jingjiang won't have major floods." Ma La said, "The Three Gorges Dam can block all floodwaters. Shenhuangzhou's embankment isn't the Jingjiang Great Embankment, more fragile than tofu dregs. You're not unaware." "It's not that I don't care about flood prevention. Really, the town hasn't issued instructions," Guo Dongsheng said evasively. "If superiors don't speak up, no money available, no flood prevention equipment available, what use me working alone?" Was this something the party secretary of Shenhuangzhou would say? Did his heart still hold the village's several hundred fellow villagers? Ma La almost couldn't believe his ears. A kind of unprecedented disappointment made him speechless for quite a while. Coming downstairs, Big Bowl Uncle, with head tilted, had already fallen asleep in the lounge chair. Commune Member wagged its tail, following him for a stretch, appearing reluctant to part. Ma La bent down, stroking Member's head. Seeing its body's fur dry and yellow, dirty and messy, he thought, "Big Bowl Uncle sick like this can't care for Member. In the future, it could only, like street stray dogs, care for itself." Returning to Shenhuangzhou from Heku, already noon. Little Cripple didn't know where he'd gone, still hadn't returned. Ma La cooked a bowl of noodles, squatting at the kitchen door, eating. Gu Yu came. Seeing Gu Yu's tightly locked brow, Ma La knew he had important matters to tell him. Sure enough, Gu Yu opened his mouth, bursting out news that greatly shocked him. "Teacher Ma, only now do I understand why the village and town pay no attention to flood prevention." Ma La's heart was already angry about Guo Dongsheng's attitude that morning. Now hearing Gu Yu say this, he couldn't help stopping his chopsticks. "Why?" "Heard the county already decided to relocate Chu Feng Group to Shenhuangzhou. They're now hoping our embankment will breach." Before Gu Yu finished speaking, Ma La's noodle bowl clattered to the ground, soup spilling everywhere. "Where did you hear this news? Is it reliable?" Gu Yu said, "I have a classmate who's town committee office secretary. He told me personally, town leaders plan using this flood to relocate the entire village from Shenhuangzhou, making room for Chu Feng Group." Ma La closed his eyes, recalling the scene of Ding Yupeng's group recently inspecting Shenhuangzhou. Looked like they really intended moving that pollution enterprise that once caused major riots in the county to Shenhuangzhou. They were clear, if doing this openly, the entire village definitely wouldn't agree. So they wanted to use floodwaters to force villagers to make way for the Chufeng Group. Ma La's mind conjured Guo Dongsheng's evasive expression discussing flood prevention this morning. He must have long known the town's decision, yet had tightly concealed it from him, revealing not a trace. "Dongsheng, you also grew up in Shenhuangzhou since childhood. Can you bear watching this land soaked in generations' blood and sweat be destroyed?" Ma La's heart felt terrible. He felt his whole body's blood surging upward. He wanted to go to the county immediately to find that old classmate, Ding Yupeng, to protest, asking him to retract the county's decision. But thinking again, this matter definitely wasn't something Ding Yupeng alone could decide. Even thoroughly cursing Ding Yupeng probably wouldn't help. Now, who doesn't know that Chufeng Group is a specialized poison-spreading enterprise? County people can't endure it, so they move to the countryside. Truly bullying too much. Are countryside people not people? Gu Yu said angrily, eyes almost sparking. "Teacher Ma, we can't just obediently let them lead us by the nose. You say the word, I'll immediately lead the entire village's villagers to the town committee for a sit-in demonstration." Ma La wasn't without such thoughts, but that county riot he'd personally witnessed a year ago remained before his eyes. Thinking of the possible consequences this action might bring to the entire village, he abandoned this idea. "Teacher Ma, take a position." Gu Yu beside him anxiously scratched his cheeks. "Gu Yu, don't worry. Let me think carefully." Ma La pondered, saying, "Directly confronting government with hard opposition is the worst strategy. Then what's the best strategy?" "This best strategy." Ma La slapped his knee. "Those cadres aren't hoping floodwaters help them, driving us from Shenhuangzhou. We'll mobilize the entire village's common people up the embankment for flood rescue, strictly defending, letting their wishful thinking fail." "That's a good idea." Gu Yu's eyes brightened, then dimmed again. But now village party secretary Guo Dongsheng's butt sits on the town leader's side. The village doesn't even have a leading cadre. How to fight floods? Now we can only rely on villagers' self-governance and self-rescue to defend our homeland. Ma La's voice wasn't loud, but every word sounded firm and forceful. Gu Yu couldn't help casting his gaze toward Ma La. The expression on his face also became solemn. After several continuous days of rain, the lower-lying village crops were all flooded. Part of Zhao Guangfu's cotton fields also couldn't be spared. For an entire day, he drained waterlogging in the fields, nearly dark when he returned home. Chao Guiqiu, half a month earlier, had sent heavily pregnant daughter Manyu back to the county. From childbirth to postpartum confinement, all depended on her care. Definitely couldn't return within a year and a half. Accustomed to the old couple keeping each other company, Zhao Guangfu's home suddenly left him alone, not even someone to talk with. He really wasn't used to it. The house was cold and cheerless. Several chickens, drenched by rain, shrank their necks as they stood under the eaves. Hungry all day, seeing him, they surrounded him, clucking non-stop. After feeding chickens, Zhao Guangfu went to the cattle shed to feed the bull fodder, returning to the kitchen to start cooking. For decades, besides busy farm work, had Zhao Guangfu ever entered the kitchen to cook even once? Upon returning from fieldwork, before even entering, he could smell the hot, steaming air. Food already on the table, even wine cups set out. He'd wash his hands, sit at the table, down several cups of wine and several chopsticks of food. A day's exhaustion would vanish into thin air. But now, after busying in the fields all day, he still had to cook for himself. He struck several matches before lighting kindling. But before the water in the pot boiled, the stove fire went out again. Zhao Guangfu, smoked until nose and tears streamed, lay at the stove door. Using a fire-blowing tube, he blew for ages before the stove fire rekindled. Only then did he somewhat envy the Tongxin cooperative farmers' installed biogas stoves. Installing that thing, cooking at least wouldn't get smoked. With great difficulty finishing cooking, Zhao Guangfu, with a bowl of preserved vegetables and several pieces of preserved fish, finished dinner. Just about to wash bowls in the kitchen, someone suddenly appeared through the dark, heavy rain curtain at his door. When that person removed their raincoat, revealing their face, Zhao Guangfu was startled. The visitor was Ma La. In Zhao Guangfu's memory, ever since that time eating at a closed door, aside from Man Yu's wedding, Ma La had never again come to his home. The year before last spring festival, Ma La had performed dragon dances at his door, but that was only passing by without entering. Due to irrigation water disputes and cooperative matters, knots between them had lasted 2 or 3 years, never having the opportunity to untie. Now seeing Ma La suddenly appear at his door, Zhao Guangfu felt somewhat at a loss. Thinking secretly, Ma La coming to find him at this time must have some major matter. Ma La's reason for braving the heavy rain to visit Zhao Guangfu's door was to discuss flood prevention and rescue with him. Ma La was clear, nowadays in Shenhuangzhou, those who could mobilize everyone up the embankment for flood prevention, besides village party secretary Guo Dongsheng, were only he and Zhao Guangfu. If he could organize Tongxin Cooperative's 20-some farming households and Zhao Guangfu's insect-resistant cotton cooperative's dozen-some farming households, other villagers would follow suit. As long as everyone united their efforts, they needn't worry about protecting Shenhuangzhou's embankment. Protecting the embankment equaled blocking the town and county's excuse for taking advantage of circumstances, forcing villagers to relocate from Shenhuangzhou. At this moment, Ma La couldn't care about Zhao Guangfu's puzzled gaze. He poured out flood prevention and relocation matters in one breath. After hearing Ma La's words, Zhao Guangfu seemingly couldn't believe his ears. "You're saying superiors, to give our embankment to that Chufeng group, want to use changing tactics to force the entire village to relocate elsewhere? Isn't this exploiting a crisis?" Ma La said, "I also didn't believe at first, but today Gu Yu told me personally. Superiors have already prepared resettlement housing, right at the town's east end, enough for over 100 village households. Reportedly, when the time comes, the entire village will be converted to an urban population. I'm not the least bit interested in any urban population." Before he finished, Zhao Guangfu said huffily, "We farm, leaving cropland, what else can we do?" Anger made his already sallow face flush red. "This embankment was all carried up by us Shenhuangzhou people with shoulder poles, one basket at a time. Can't just let them occupy it like this. This lifetime I'm going nowhere. Even dying, I'll die here." "This is the government's decision. No other way," Ma La emphasized. "Unless we defend the embankment to the death, not letting floodwaters submerge Shenhuangzhou." Zhao Guangfu understood Ma La's thinking, immediately stating his position. "Lazi, no need to say more. In this matter, I'll listen to you. Though my cooperative long ceased existing in name, even if thickening this old face, I'll rally everyone defending the embankment." Hearing Zhao Guangfu's words, Ma La's heart felt complicated. He knew Zhao Guangfu's recent days hadn't been easy. That insect-resistant cotton cooperative had basically disbanded. Last year, cotton prices dropped again. Many cotton farmers lost terribly. Starting this year, aside from Zhao Guangfu's few households, most farmers followed Tongxin Cooperative, converting dry fields to paddies, planting rice instead. This undoubtedly hurt more than a slap to Zhao Guangfu's face. Plus, Manue and Li Haijun divorced, still alone, carrying a child. Family and farm matters were both unsatisfactory. Zhao Guangfu, who'd always handled matters calmly, also couldn't quite withstand it. "Brother Guangfu, if the embankment can be preserved this time next year, plant rice with us." Ma La looked at Zhao Guangfu's face, which appeared older than before, and said sincerely. Zhao Guangfu knew Ma La's good intentions, but only grunted through his nose, saying nothing. That night, lying in bed, Ma La couldn't sleep for a long time. Midnight, faint thunder sounds came from outside. He walked to the window and pulled open the curtains. The night sky constantly flashed dazzling golden lightning. Thunder sounds grew increasingly urgent, looked like heavy rain was coming again. Torrential rain fell a day and night. Shenhuangzhou's cotton fields, rice paddies all soaked in half-foot-deep standing water. But what people were worried about now wasn't just crops, but increasingly severe flooding. In less than one night, floodwaters rose to the embankment's halfway point. After Zhao Guangfu and Ma La's door-to-door mobilization, most village male laborers went up the embankment day and night, rotating embankment guard duty 24 hours a day. Along the 7 or 8 li embankment section, embankment patrol people were everywhere. Ma La's windmill-topped house became flood prevention headquarters. Upstairs and downstairs crowded with people, some sitting, some standing, men, women, old, young, all covered in mud and water. Some had guarded the embankment most of the night, just replaced, faces full of fatigue. Gu Yu was appointed by Ma La as the Shenhuangzhou Flood Prevention and Rescue Assault Team captain. He issued strict discipline to all flood prevention villagers, no returning home without permission. Don't look at villagers ordinarily loose and scattered like sand. At this moment, all became extraordinarily obedient. They knew right now wasn't working for others, not earning money laboring, but protecting their own survival foundation. This was the reasoning that Shenhuangzhou people's generations passed down, needed no one's lengthy explanations. At daybreak, the rain lessened somewhat. Ma La, who'd stayed up all night, was just about to go upstairs to the study to nap, when Zhao Guangfu, leaning on an iron shovel, limped in. "Lazi, water's still rising, already exceeded alert levels. Must prepare rescue in advance, but now we don't have a single sandbag." Zhao Guangfu said hoarsely, "If pipe surge occurs, even if we dozens of people all stuff ourselves in, we can't block it." Seeing Zhao Guangfu's eyes full of bloodshot, looked like he'd also stayed up all night without sleeping, Ma La said, "Brother Guangfu, you go back to sleep first. I'll think of a way for sandbags." Not long after Zhao Guangfu left, Gu Yu and his wife Fennel brought food on shoulder poles. Villagers, having patrolled all night, were both tired and hungry. Smelling the food fragrance, they surrounded them. Taking this opportunity, Ma La pulled Gu Yu aside and told him about sandbags. Gu Yu scratched his head. "Buying now definitely won't make it in time. I think several village households building houses have leftover coarse sand. How about first requisitioning from them?" Ma La said, "Requisitioning definitely won't work. Count it as borrowing. Repay at a price later." "That works too. Actually, not worth much money." Gu Yu smiled, turning to head toward the village. Watching his hurrying back, Ma La thought, "Gu Yu truly is a capable general. Without him, I really wouldn't know who to rely on." His heart was just feeling emotional when Fennel led over several slightly unfamiliar-faced young men and women, saying, "Teacher Ma, they previously worked in Guangdong. Recently, the factory closed, so they just returned to the village. Now they're volunteering to participate in flood rescue." Hearing this, Ma La immediately expressed welcome. As the saying goes, when people's hearts unite, Mount Tai moves. Even these young people physically in cow camp but hearts in Han, idiom, appearing to serve one side while loyal to another, had voluntarily come up the embankment. What was there left to worry about? He had these lovable young people wait to find Gu Yu to report and uniformly receive assignments. Finishing all this, Ma La returned upstairs to his study bedroom. He'd already gone a full day and night without sleep. At this moment, lying in bed, eyelids growing increasingly heavy, he quickly fell asleep. He had a dream. Lightning flashed, thunder roared, torrential rain poured. River water, like a herd of runaway wild horses, rampaged through the riverbed, launching round after round of increasingly fierce attacks on the embankment. The river embankment split open a gap. The gap grew larger and larger, rising a huge water dragon, the embankments collapsing. With a terrified shout, people scattered, fleeing everywhere. After Ma La woke, his heart still pounded. He recalled the dream scene, his heart vaguely producing an ominous feeling. Village Party Secretary Guo Dongsheng came to Shenhuangzhou at this time. Coming with him were the town mayor and several town cadres. The mayor, surnamed Shu, was a just over 30 young man, recently transferred from county committee offices to Heikou. This was his first time coming to Shenhuangzhou for inspection work. Ma La still thought town leaders had begun paying attention to Shenhuangzhou's flood situation, coming to support and encourage villagers, but subsequent events completely exceeded his expectations. Guo Dongsheng, expression serious, called Ma La from inside the house to outside, quietly saying, "Shenhuangzhou's embankment definitely can't be preserved. The town decided the entire village must evacuate immediately." Ma La recalled Gu Yu's words, thinking, as expected, they can't wait. He coldly asked, "To make room for Chufeng Group." Guo Dongsheng froze before understanding Ma La's implication. He stammered, as if having unspeakable difficulty. Many villagers probably also guessed Guo Dongsheng and the town leader's purpose, squeezing out the door, clustering around Ma La. Just then, Mayor Shu whispered a few words with Guo Dongsheng, standing on the platform under Ma La's house eaves, loudly saying, "Fellow villagers, the town just received notice from the city committee, due to continuous torrential rain in the upper Yangtze, to reduce reservoir pressure. Three Gorges Dam will soon release floodwaters. Shenhuangzhou's embankment faces imminent danger of breach at any time. To ensure the safety of villagers' lives and property, the town committee and the government have decided that all villagers must evacuate Shenhuangzhou completely before dark. Town committee and government have already prepared temporary resettlement housing for everyone." Before Mayor Shu finished speaking, someone loudly questioned, "No danger has even occurred once. You're making us evacuate. What kind of decision is this?" Mayor Shu's expression turned serious. "Waiting until danger occurs will be too late. Party and government absolutely cannot treat the masses' lives as child's play." "Then what about our crops? Growing so well, just write them off like this?" Someone immediately followed, asking. "As for crop losses," Mayor Shu paused, "town and county have both studied this. Everyone rest assured, government will provide appropriate compensation." Someone coldly laughed. Sounds better than singing. You're sparing no cost rushing us to move. Isn't it just to make room for Chufeng Group?" Over the past 2 days, rumors about Chufeng Group relocating to Shenhuangzhou had spread throughout the village. This statement immediately ignited many people's emotions like matches. Someone shouted loudly, "We absolutely won't move! We'll defend the embankment even if it means death!" Words barely finished, someone immediately echoed, "Right! While people exist, the embankment exists. We vow to coexist with Shenhuangzhou." The crowd thereupon became agitated, shouting and clamoring sounds merging together. Seeing the situation about to lose control, Village Party Secretary Guo Dongsheng quickly came out, helping Mayor Shu. "Everyone calm down. Town leaders are all for the safety of all villagers. Everyone must not believe rumors." But before Guo Dongsheng finished, someone interrupted him. "Guo Dongsheng, when have you ever thought of the villagers? If listening to you, we'd be sold without even knowing." Right. You shut up. You have no say here. We only listen to Teacher Ma." Guo Dongsheng was blocked speechless by people's voices. Face embarrassed, he could only hide behind Mayor Shu, no longer speaking. At this moment, Mayor Shu's phone rang. He pulled out his phone from his pocket, walking aside to answer. Shortly after, he walked toward Ma La, holding his phone. "Mayor Ding wants to speak with you." Ma La took the phone. Just placing it by his ear, he heard Ding Yupeng's voice. "Is this Ma La?" Heard you're leading the Shenhuangzhou villagers in actively fighting the floods. I fully affirm your actions, but the current situation is extremely complex and severe. Hope you can consider the big picture, persuading villagers to abandon narrow peasant consciousness, sacrificing small families for everyone, quickly relocating to safe areas. Afterward, Ding Yuping said more, but Ma La had already returned the phone to Mayor Shu. He seemed slapped, face turning extremely pale. Distant thunder rumbled, accompanied by river waves pounding the embankment slopes, splashing sounds, wave after wave growing louder. Overhead, dark clouds blocked out the sun and sky. An even greater storm was about to arrive. The next day, when the flood peak reached Shenhuangzhou, the undefended embankment breached. Surging floodwaters like wild beasts drove straight in. Overnight, they submerged Shenhuangzhou. Just the day before at dusk, under the town government's unified organization, Shenhuangzhou villagers had safely evacuated to Heku. During the evacuation, an accident occurred. Zhao Guangfu suddenly had a stroke. Fortunately, Mayor Shu called an ambulance, promptly sending him to the county hospital. Otherwise, who knows what danger might have occurred. The entire village, except for one person, had evacuated to Heku. This person was Ma La. Chapter 36. The day after Big Bowl Uncle passed away, commune member also suddenly inexplicably died. Floodwaters submerged all of Shenhuangzhou. Even the windmill atop Ma La's house roof had fallen apart, leaving only several canque's spokes exposed above the muddy water surface. During this period, Ma La lived continuously at the sentry post on the embankment where Big Bowl Uncle had previously stayed. Like Robinson Crusoe, he drifted to a desert island and lived a period of isolation. He could precisely concentrate wholeheartedly, continuing to write. Now that the book had entered its concluding section, writing most absorbedly, Ma La almost completely forgot the flood-surrounded circumstances. His entire being seemed to sprout wings, escaping into another world. That was a world that had already vanished from the real world, yet remained intact, preserved deep in his memory. In that world, he again became that shy, sensitive youth. He saw his father, mother, and older brother. Mother, holding his and older brother Ma Kei's hands, first stepped onto Shenhuangzhou's outer beach, gazing at the vast, boundless wilderness, footsteps stumbling, not knowing which foot to step forward first. Those initial days settling in Shenhuangzhou, Mother often brought him and his brother to dig wild vegetables on the outer beach. Reed groves, woodlands, wild vegetables everywhere. From that time, he could name all outer beach wild vegetables: snake pillow flower, shepherd's purse, pole grass, wild chives, wild oat flower, wild chrysanthemum, hornwort, mugwort, saw-blade vegetable, goose intestine, horsetail, wild sesame, cattail, copper coin plant, purslane, 8-fruit grass, plantain, houttainia, wormwood, water chestnut, water lantern star, lantern bubble, floating ribbon leaf, rice vine, ginger leaf, purple perea, 3-peel grass, backward-looking green, wolfberry, fragrant treasure. Gradually, Ma La felt himself becoming an outer beach wild vegetable, seemingly. This feeling excited him, yet he felt somewhat embarrassed telling others. He kept it hidden deep in his heart, like guarding an unspeakable secret. Until one day his older brother said to him, "I had a dream. Dreamed I became a pole grass plant, growing and growing until taller than a tree." Only then could he finally no longer hold back, telling his brother the same dream. Except what he dreamed of becoming wasn't pole grass, but backward-looking green, a wild vegetable that only returned green growing in winter. Floodwaters lasted over half a month before gradually receding. Shenhuangzhou people who'd been staying at Heku's temporary resettlement point began successively returning to the unrecognizable village. However, they didn't plan to rebuild homes but packed up broken furniture, preparing to return to Heku, starting new lives. In Heku, the government had already allocated each household an apartment unit, plus a sizable resettlement fee. From now on, Shenhuangzhou people would become city people. As for future Shenhuangzhou's fate, most people were too lazy to care. Even Gu Yu and Fennel, plus other Tongsin cooperative members, like most people, began seeking new livelihood methods in Heku. Fennel rented a shopfront on the street, planning to open a snack shop, getting up early and working late every day, busier than farming before. Gu Yu, using that tractor as capital, joined the town's United Transport Company. After Tongsin Cooperative disbanded, he bought the tractor. Before making this decision, he and Fennel had even quarreled. Initially, he'd still wanted to follow Ma La and stay in Shenhuangzhou, but Fennel this time didn't support him like usual. "We can't compare to Teacher Ma. He's alone. When he's fed, the whole family isn't hungry. Our family, 3 children all attending school, spend money every month. If not thinking of ways to earn more, how can we live?" Fennel's words stabbed like knives into Gu Yu's heart. Before officially starting work at the transport company, Gu Yu returned to Shenhuangzhou once. Ma La had already moved from the sentry post back to that windmill-topped house. Though floodwaters had scoured the building beyond recognition, the cooperative's signboard remained, just lettering somewhat blurred and unclear. Seeing Tongsin cooperative characters, Gu Yu's heart filled with melancholy. In recent days, Teacher Ma had still been discussing cooperative development plans with him, planning cooperative funding to build a multimedia cultural room and elderly fitness hall in the village, planning to purchase a sewage and garbage processing system, thoroughly changing Shenhuangzhou's sewage-flowing, garbage-everywhere problem. He'd also planned to go to Peach Blossom Mountain, purchasing tree seedlings and having every village household plant various trees. "In a few years, our village will be forested, again becoming green and shady. By then, birds will return nesting and settling." When Teacher Ma said this, eyes like a child's shone with longing. He'd also planned to go to Wuhan, inviting architectural design experts to transform village houses from uniform and monotonous to the ancient, substantial, long-vanished traditional dwelling style. Teacher Ma had drawn all these ideas onto blueprints and pasted them on the study wall. Whenever free, he'd gaze at those drawings absently, hand holding a pencil, mouth muttering, occasionally adding strokes to blueprints. Gu Yu knew Teacher Ma had planned both the cooperatives and the entire village's future. Sometimes he felt Teacher Ma was worried not just about Tongxin Cooperative and Shenhuangzhou, but about all of China. His heart was enormous, but now everything had turned to bubbles. Gu Yu recalled these years working together with Teacher Ma for the cooperative, racking brains, laboring heart and blood, truly felt like having a dream. With this sudden flood, in the blink of an eye, vanishing without a trace, as if nothing had ever happened. Gu Yu and Ma La sat together for a long time. The two rarely spoke, just competed continuously, smoking. Later, Gu Yu asked in a suppressed voice, "Teacher Ma, they've also allocated housing for you. You really don't plan on going to town to live?" "I'm going nowhere," Ma La said expressionlessly. "Here's my orchard. They weren't drowned. After a while, they'll recover." Saying this, the corners of the mouth showed a trace of a strange smile. A period unseen, Ma La seemed much thinner, person also darkened considerably, stubbled, eye circles red, seemingly hadn't slept well for days. Gu Yu's heart felt terrible. After a moment, he made conversation. "A few days ago, I went to the county to see Manyu. Manyu gave birth to a son. Compared to before, she's somewhat plumper. Uncle Zhao's stroke hasn't recovered. Lying in a lounge chair, even eating needs feeding, constantly drooling, and speech is unclear. Seeing me, he kept going yi-yi-ya-ya non-stop. Seeing that I didn't understand, he gestured anxiously with his hands. Only when Auntie Chao told me did I know he wanted to come back to Shenhuangzhou. Sigh, Uncle Zhao was shrewd all his life. I never expected him to become like this." Gu Yu stopped halfway. He mocked himself. Why am I saying this nonsense? That day, Gu Yu accompanied Ma La, sitting for a very long time before returning to Heku. One morning, when Ma La was banking soil for those kiwi trees half dead from floodwater soaking in the outer beech orchard, familiar squeaking sounds reached his ears. He sharply turned around, seeing 2 little hedgehogs emerging from who knows where, suddenly appearing before him. His eyes brightened as he recognized Big Forest and Little Forest. Missing so long, he'd thought they'd long been drowned by floodwaters. At this moment, seeing their pointy little mouths and rolling little eyes, his heart warmed. Squatting down, he suddenly gathered them into his arms. Little Cripple quietly entered the orchard just at this time. "Shenhuangzhou no longer exists," Ma La said. "You should stay in town finding work to support yourself." "The village is gone, but the orchard remains," Little Cripple said. "Uncle Ma, I don't want to leave you. I want to stay with you in the orchard." "But the orchard perhaps similarly won't last long," Ma La said. "They'll come soon." Little Cripple knew who Ma La's they were, but still stubbornly stiffened his neck. "I don't care. I just want to be with you." Ma La touched Little Cripple's cheek, saying nothing. Days ago, some uniformed, helmeted strangers appeared in Shenhuangzhou. Carrying surveying instruments, they walked around this abandoned village, continuously using them to measure and record data, then got into cars and departed in a puff of smoke. Ma La thought, before long, Shenhuangzhou would vanish from maps, replaced by another unfamiliar place name. As for how long he himself could stay on this land, his heart had no certainty whatsoever. A few days later, Ma La heard the news of Uncle Dawan's death. Guo Dongsheng said that, before dying, Uncle Dawan never forgot that he must be buried in Shenhuangzhou. Guo Dongsheng also told him that the day after Uncle Dawan breathed his last, commune member also died suddenly and inexplicably. Hearing this, Ma La's heart felt sad. Big Bowl Uncle was buried in that cemetery at Shenhuangzhou's village entrance, not far from Ma La's mother's grave. That day, he stayed at the cemetery for a very long time. After leaving the cemetery, he again, as usual, came before the graves of his older brother, Ma Kei, and teacher Liu. Due to floodwater scouring, both grave mounds seemed somewhat lower. Mugwort on the grave tops still bore mud. When the wind blew, they nodded and drooped like a commune member's tail. That evening, Ma La fell asleep very late. Midnight, he heard movement outside, as if thousands of troops were passing through. He walked to the window, looking out, and couldn't help being startled. In the pitch-black wilderness, countless people in orderly formation walked grandly past from the river embankment. Those people all wore ancient soldiers' clothing, with broadswords and spears, weapons only seen in costume movies. But the bright red five-pointed stars on their helmets clearly resembled modern people again. Some soldiers held burning torches. The originally pitch-black night sky was illuminated as bright as day. Ma La couldn't believe what he saw was real. Rubbing his eyes, those soldiers and horses still continuously passed before him. He recalled ghost soldiers Big Bowl Uncle had told him about in childhood. Like mortal realm armies, they also organize annual drills. If lucky, you also have opportunities to see. Big Bowl Uncle's words still rang in his ears. He thought, could these be legendary ghost soldiers? The ghost soldiers passed for a full hour before ending. Ma La finally fell asleep. He had a dream. The production team building a fire scene from years ago reappeared in his dreamscape. But this time, what burned wasn't just the team building but all of Shenhuangzhou. Rubble everywhere. The entire village became a ruin. Village adults and children embraced each other, wailing loudly. The scene was unbearable to witness. Strangely, older brother Ma Kei hadn't been burned to death by the fire. He stood among fellow villagers, expressionless like a puppet. Beside brother stood someone, Murong Chu. She tightly held his brother's arm as if fearing his sudden disappearance. Ma La walked over, tugging brother's sleeve, but he remained unmoved. Ma La pushed hard. Brother's body swayed, falling straight to the ground like a piece of wood with a thud. He was so frightened he wailed, crying. Just then, Ma La woke. He vaguely heard someone arguing outside, voices loud back and forth as if debating some issue. Ma La listened carefully, ears pricked, voices very familiar, seemingly those of older brother Ma Kei and teacher Liu. Their voices were hoarse as if they'd never stopped arguing, moreover would continue debating endlessly like this. He felt his whole body tighten. Abruptly climbing from bed, he opened the door, walking outside. But the surroundings were quiet, Not a single person. Could he be dreaming again? As soon as the sky turned pale, Ma La got up. Although sleepless all night, he wasn't tired. The river dike was still shrouded in white fog. Shenhuangzhou was a blur of yellow, silent, like an eternal wilderness never cultivated. He went out and walked toward the kiwi orchard by the river. When he walked up the river dike and looked back, he saw a large, round sun rising slowly from the east. The thousands of rays it sprayed pierced the heavy fog, illuminating all things in the world with brightness. At this moment, Ma La vaguely saw someone walking from the wilderness after the fog dispersed. He felt very familiar, as if some relative or friend lost for many years. Strangely, as distance drew nearer, that person's features not only didn't become clearer but grew increasingly blurred. He thought, "Who is this?" End of part 1.